Hi, everybody. And we are so glad that you are taking just a few minutes out of busy, busy days to be able to hear about my best friend, mentor, just superstar friend, Terri Broussard Williams, talk about what is the relaunch of what has been a book that has meant so much to me, Find Your Fire. And Terri, you, I know, have touched so many lives and have lit the flames under so many men and women, young and old, and in so many diverse backgrounds, to say, listen, really get in touch with who you are and who you're meant to be, and then go after it. What in the world has happened since we met last August? Well, a lot has happened in the world, but what has happened to you since August 2020, when we had this original conversation that this book was coming out with so many inspirational stories about really going after the injustices in the world and putting your time and talents to work for the things that meant something to you. Why did you decide to add on to this already great book and make it even better?
Oh my gosh. I also have to say thank you, Hannah, for being here and just being along the journey. There's so few people that know my professional journey, and you've been there, since day one, since 2000. So you've witnessed all of this inside of me and watched me find my own fire. But so much has happened since August of 2020, from who I am and how I honor my time and space to what's happened to me professionally, and even so many people that have been a part of the book or have read the book. So I'm going to give you like a little bite-sized answer to all of those things. For those people who might not have followed my story on Instagram or LinkedIn, I am a person that believes that when you give people data, stories, and access to information, they will do good in the world. So Find Your Fire was born from that premise. I believe that leaders turn moments into movements, and you give a leader the tools, stories, and inspiration they need, and they will find their fire and make things happen. So during the pandemic, I launched this book and heard from so many people that were having this beautiful evolution, like lots of caterpillars turning into butterflies. And I immediately think of Alexandria, who reached out to me, and I had to read the email twice, but she read Find Your Fire and she wrote a paper on it during her PhD program. And her professor said, this isn't a real book. I want you to read an academic book and write a paper on it. And at that very moment, it was just boom, she realized she did not want to be in the academic space. And since then, she's launched this beautiful nonprofit tied to dance. And she and I have Marco Polo meetups where I cheer her on and we think big about what she's doing in the world. And that's just one story of someone who's found their fire. So that leads me to something else you asked, which was, why add stories? Why continue the conversation? And I think we've all had what I now call a me said, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but we're discovering who we are and who we want to be in the world. And so a whole bunch of fire starters and movement makers and change makers, they were born during this period. And I wanted to honor their story. So I'm telling the story of a doctor who worked during the pandemic, and is now focused on healthcare IT. Tell the story of Mayor Karen Weaver, who is this resilient human and leader who led Flint through a water crisis and continues to lead in her community through crisis every day. Or update stories of people like Ashley Shank, who truly is a fire starter in her own right and educates people on a podcast. But during the pandemic, she delivered meals every day. And then during just this moment of hate this summer, she stood up as a part of the Asian community and started a rally in Austin, Texas, again, being a person that saw something others ignore and created change. So it was easy to say, why not update? Why not add more stories that will inspire people to do social good?
So will the book be a whole new iteration of stories, or will you add on to the ones, because I love my copy, it's dog-eared and highlighted. And
yeah.
So the second book that's coming out, will it still include the original stories?
That's a great question. You have lived in Louisiana, so you'll know this term. I consider it line up. So that means you get all the good stuff, and some of the stories are updated. So if you have an original copy, you should still pick one up. And of course, I would say that, but a lot of the stories are updated. Ashley's just one example of an update that we've given. And then there are 5 more stories and some more worksheets. So the book has grown from about 120 pages to about 210. So, I mean, there's a big difference here, you guys.
And the tactical worksheets, you touched on that just a second ago, are so incredibly dynamic and useful that as you go through the pages of this book and you're ingesting these stories and you're again, those sparks are flying and you're thinking and moving in your head about what your fire is. Then this treasure trove of putting really pencil to paper about what the next steps are so vitally important. Did those remain the same, or were you able to get feedback on that and tweak those as well?
So we did tweak them a little bit, but there's more. There are more worksheets in here. I'm looking for them right now. So I love this one that talks about cultivating the movement within. And I really want people to see that the framework that you use and that you learn, the Firestarter formula, can be applied to anything in life. I've used it to lose weight. I've used it to write this book. I've used it when I was thinking about pivoting in life. And so I really want people to honor just that change within themselves, and to remember sometimes, we will create this incredible movement in our community or in our workplace. But many times the biggest movement we'll ever curate is one that we create inside. And I call it the movement within. And so there's a worksheet specific for that, that anyone can use.
That's fantastic. And you're exactly right. The best relationship you have is the one with yourself. But from being true to yourself and getting to those personal goals, you are able then to step out and be to the world who you're meant to be. So I'm so glad that you include that as well. So what is happening now with getting the word out? I know that we're launching this, we're telling people about it today, but how do we, at that point, are you going to be able to hear you speak places? Will you be signing the books, doing virtual workshops? How can we connect other ways?
Yes. Here's what's awesome is we can now wear a mask and travel and have conversations. So you can expect to see salons where we will talk about the book and maybe even workshops some ideas in your local community about how you can create change. I really want to go to local bookstores and have that conversation, or in the homes of fire starters and movement makers. So just stay tuned to Instagram and LinkedIn and my website, terribwilliams.com, for a list of those. And the book is now available in hardcover. So of course you can get all things on Amazon, but anywhere else that you would get a book, Barnes and Noble, or your local bookstore, you can now get it there as well. And so I'm very, very excited about that. And I really want to honor where I am in my own life. And so in creating this book, I started a new professional chapter. I switched professional homes and started a career at a very large tech company. And in doing that work, I realized so many times as change makers, as people that are doing good in the world, we're expending so much energy. Mm-hmm. And then we get home and we can be a shell of ourselves, or we can forget that we have to put ourselves first. And I was talking to someone during the pandemic and said, the world is going through this great reset, but I am doubling down on really who I am, how I want to show up, and putting myself first. It's kind of like my me set. And it was just like, wait, what? Well, you have that moment where you feel something that just vibrates through your bones. And so I truly believe in something called the Great Reset. And so the worksheets in the back, they are not branded in that way, but they truly will help us begin that conversation. So when we have salons, I will definitely introduce people to that just concept and that thinking. And sometimes in Q1 of 2022, I will be launching a new podcast called The Great Reset. And so I'm talking to leaders who have either had a pivot in life where, they've decided just to hang their core corporate hat and maybe started a nonprofit, or a corporate leader who's decided, I will no longer lead with authority. I'm going to lead with inspiration and influence. Or just someone who decided that maybe they wanted to become a yoga teacher and really just become one with the earth. There's so many people that I will share with you, and we'll use this 4-step concept where you really breathe and just think about what you want so you can become one with yourself, and then you begin to visualize. You begin to think about what's ahead of you, and then you focus on attracting. And once you attract, you have the opportunity to transform, which is the last step. And it's no surprise that those things run parallel to the Firestarter formula. They are new words with the same concepts. And so it would have been really easy to just use the same, but I wanted to honor this moment where we can have just a mindful moment and really fuel our soul. So you'll get a little bit of Find Your Fire, and then we will focus a little bit on just adding that fuel for our soul so that we can be the movement maker and the fire starter that the world needs us to be right now.
I love that that you're coming back to a place of you mentioned it, a place of home, a new home, and find your fire. So if there's no I in team, well, there's a lot of you in your fire.
That's right.
So start with you, and I love that you are really turning it around to in portions of the book for it to be about the fire starter themselves as opposed to the movement that they make, because the movement really starts with them. It starts inside of you, and in taking care of yourself first, and prioritizing your health, your wellness, your mental wellness. All of that is so incredibly important if you're going to be the person that's going to give to the world. Absolutely.
Yes, and I feel like you just lived through all of this. A new city, a new job, a new title, all the things.
I did. You encouraged me to find my fire. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because in the time that the book came out we've launched in August of last year. In that time, I too have had a pivot. I still stay, Terri, with what I call my core competency. So I believe that as you look in the mirror, there are certain things that you're good at. And for me, it has been ingesting, disseminating, understanding, translating information, and then being able to share that information with the community to make it better. That's what I do. In many ways, we share that core competency as recovering journalists. And many of you may not know, Terri and I started out on TV news together many eons ago. But I have been able to take that from a job that I'll be honest with you, was a great job, but leveling up to what I believe is a calling for me now, in that I run what's called an entrepreneurial support organization, ESO. And entrepreneurial support organizations, or incubators, accelerators, you probably heard that, of course, in many of the bigger cities around the country, like where you are, Terri, and Austin. That's just a hub for entrepreneurism. But where I live in Rock Hill, South Carolina, just south of Charlotte, we are a growing, just budding, beautiful small town in the shadow of Charlotte. But we have folks here that are interested in starting and launching businesses, and I'm right at the heart of being able to help them do that. So I feel like everything, I have found my fire in helping entrepreneurs understand themselves, to learn and grow and invest smartly into to make sure that what they're doing, that they are finding their fire as they move forward in their entrepreneurial journey. So you're absolutely right. I've walked this. The Firestarter formula has been important to me as I have made these important steps. Moved 150 miles, just a million life changes. But I feel great about it. And I think that that's something too, that I think that the book affirms the stories that you tell. And if folks just heard mine, the stories in the book affirm that you're not crazy, that
yes,
that what you want to do is achievable, that it's worthy, that it's needed, and that it's truly is your next step. And I think people need to feel that and know that and have that courage to do what it is that's in themselves to do.
Oh my gosh, that resonates with me so much. And to your point, there are some incredible news stories in here. People who have started businesses during the pandemic or have updated their businesses during the pandemic. So your Firestarter journey and what you do every day as a movement maker, it's right here in these pages. And so I can't thank you enough for having this conversation today, for the work that you do in Rock Hill. And I hope that I can come there and spread the Firestarter love. But also for being a sincere and loyal friend through all the bad hairstyles and all the career changes and fun. I think there's so few people in life that we get to do this journey with and can be honest and our true authentic selves. And so I want to encourage everyone watching to find that person that can hold you accountable. Who's going to be at that coalition table with you and part of your collective, but who's also going to be on that text message chain hyping you up like we do all the time, Hannah. Those are the people that you need to continue to help you fuel your soul and find your fire.
Well, let us know next steps, how we can get the book, where we can find you. I know your website will probably have a lot of that information when you're doing speaking opportunities, salons, virtual, however we can log in and see you. And Terri, thank you so much for being the ultimate fire starter.
Oh my gosh. Well, again, book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere that you can get a book. This week is the Changemaker week. It is Giving Tuesday week. So if anyone buys the book this week, I'm giving all of the proceeds to nonprofits that I love and support. So another reason to help us change the world and really be the fire starters that we want to be. And all things are available on terribwilliams.com. You might even see some new surprises the week of the launch, which is November the 30th. So thank you all so much. And thank you for being a part of this community. This would not be possible without each and every one of you.